Once again, this will have absolutely nothing to do with the coronavirus epidemic. This one is entitled Little Girl Lost. I read my second book in a row by a young lady, although that young is tenuous at best, since her 30th birthday was fast approaching. This book was more sophisticated than the other, but that's not necessarily a compliment. In fact, that sophistication may be the author's principal bugaboo. She's a New Yorker, so of course she's polished and experienced. And so we can go immediately to a consideration of schadenfreude, the enjoyment of the suffering of others, which she calls the ultimate New York comfort food. And I think that is true, that misery does love company, and for me, that is the short explanation for large cities, huge populations steeping in shared wretchedness. The question, the author says, is never, should I be annoyed, but instead, how annoyed should I be? The pieces I enjoyed the most were firmly based in New York City. Finding an apartment when you're young and poor, not like on TV, it's more like bungee jumping off skyscrapers. Also, a lifetime of riding in taxi cabs with a sidelong glance at subway trains. And that might be subtitled, Learning to Ride for Miles with Your Face Pressed into a Stranger's Crotch or Backside. Ah, that shared wretchedness. She wrote a previous collection of essays, which of course is in development for a series at HBO. So she is simultaneously very successful and a train wreck when you consider her professional career and her attempt at living her personal life. My lifeline is long and my money and love lines are broken, and thus I will likely become a drunken hobo and die alone, she writes. She's being funny, but she's also perfectly serious. She knows herself. She's come that far. I'm like a cat, she wrote, that urgently needs to be on the other side of the room for no apparent reason. Seemingly in order to prove this, she goes to Lisbon, Portugal, on a whim for no apparent reason, knowing no one there, speaking no Portuguese, and she is mildly surprised to find that she spends the loneliest week of her life so far in that place. The Lisbon trip is no exception. It's her rule. I willingly enter into situations in which I can't function all the time, she writes. As when she finds herself in a cathedral in France, a Jew making a confession to a priest who speaks no English. That's her all over. Perfect positioning. She has a learning disability, a total inability to locate herself or anything else in space. So she is well accustomed to being lost. It seems that she prefers to be lost. Therefore, adolescence was a wild time for her. She writes of the desperations of girlhood and non-residential bathroom facilities as a venue for the desperation of girlhood, sometimes in retrospect, and considering those toilets across a wide socioeconomic spectrum, such as in the back of a hole-in-the-wall Chinese restaurant and the changing room of an upscale clothier. These are good places to get lost. And as for that tender age, she writes, the well of bogus logic which one can draw from as a preteen is bottomless. She falls in love, another way of getting lost, and not surprisingly, it's a complete disaster, full of deceit and betrayal, pain and suffering. That makes it perfect for her. She lives more in her imagination than in the world. She's constantly elaborating hypothetical situations, fantasies, stuff that doesn't happen, things that did not exist. But, if they did, wow, that would have been funny, for sure. Crazy, yes, or, at the very least, highly unusual. She prizes that. She can't abide the usual or the ordinary. In Paris, she wrote, everything is très. She loved Paris. She wants to live in très. Anything less disappoints. A Jew, she is attracted to Catholicism because those Catholics, with all that body and blood, are so freaking très. The girl in the previous book was beset with devils, but she found her way. I wonder if this woman will ever be found, and if she is, will she be able to stand it? To what end the conversation is going, she wrote, I have no idea, but I feel compelled to participate in the game anyway. How très! And I'll bet the game is now in development for a series at HBO. They could call it Très.